We are all a work in progress, especially when it comes to our careers. As a student myself, I know the path ahead is not always clear, and that's what makes it yours to shape. I'm Jay, and this is Careers in Progress, where I chat to people across industry, alumni, and the world of work to break down how careers actually come together so you can feel more confident shaping your own path.
Welcome to the first episode of Careers in Progress. Today's episode is all about building your career's playbook. The small things that can make a big difference when you are trying to figure your career out. We are joined by the CEO of Australian School of Entrepreneurship and most recently the American School of Entrepreneurship as well, a keynote speaker, a youth educator, Jahin Tanvir. Jahin, a very warm welcome to Careers in Progress. I am super keen to chat.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited as well.
There's so much we need to talk to you about, but we love starting off on a slightly different note. Tell me something that feels like a work in progress in your life or career right now.
A work in progress in my life or career, I would definitely say balance. When you're juggling a lot of things, especially building career at a young age, balance isn't always a priority. And I've definitely felt quite unbalanced over the last couple of years. And so this year, my New Year's resolution was to have a bit more balance in my life, prioritize things, have things that are non-negotiables as well. So going to the gym, fitness, family time, all the things that life is all about. So definitely balance, I would say, is definitely that topic though.
That's great. So do you think you were able to match your expectations, the promises that you made?
Look, 5 months in, I'd say 6 out of 10 in terms of my effort, but there was always room for improvement. So yeah, hopefully by the second half of the year, I'll go to an 8 out of 10.
Oh, that is amazing. Now for today, there's so much we need to unpack together in the realm of personal branding, networking, and how you get the most out of LinkedIn. But I'm all ears to listen to your story first. Let's rewind a bit. Tell me the personal brand that you have today. How did it come to practice?
Well, it's quite random. I would say it came out of nowhere in many ways. There was no strategy or an outline. It was very much trial and error. So when I was at university, I was very much focused on my studies. I was never told the power of personal branding or the importance of it. I knew I had to network eventually once I graduated, but it was never something I was put much focus on. It was just get a good GPA, get a good WAM, study really hard, get good at assessments. And then I think COVID happened, and I was second year university then, and I just felt like I wanted to get more of my university experience. So I was like, oh, this is second year. I want to get more involved in the societies. I want to get more involved to volunteer more and have a bit more than just studying every single day. And so, yeah, as every university student does, I started getting more opportunities, saying yes to more things, volunteering more. But the one thing I did differently compared to all my other friends and peers was I volunteered, I joined societies, but for some reason I shared a lot about it. So it started off on Instagram, posting on my story, being like, hey, today I'm volunteering here with the university. And people started enjoying it. I had started making friends, conversations. And then somebody told me about LinkedIn. And they were like, yes, it's good to post on Instagram, but Instagram is very personal. LinkedIn is made for jobs. It's made for employment. And the idea of LinkedIn was very frightening for me. I was like, oh, it's not for me. It's usually for corporate people. But I gave it a crack. So anytime I would volunteer, anytime I'd join a society and do an event, anytime I'd do anything at university parallel to studying, I'd post about it on LinkedIn. I'd say this Friday I did this, or on Monday I joined this, and kept posting. And then eventually started building an audience, started making friends, and then opportunities started coming out of nowhere. And I just realized, whoa, this is what personal branding is all about. It's just the idea of posting what you're doing. You're not creating anything new. You're just documenting what you're doing. And that's sort of how I stumbled across personal branding, realizing instead of just posting on Instagram for my family and friends, let's post about it on LinkedIn, which is meant for posting there. So yeah, the rest is history.
So your role today involves speaking on big stages, as you've said, and you work closely with young people as them, helping them build confidence and obviously making them career ready. Can I go back to your school life and just make a quick assumption? Were you always the kid in the class who's super excited to answer all the questions that the teachers used to ask?
That's a great question. My Batman origin story is completely opposite that. I was very much the quietest kid in the class. I was extremely invisible, I would say. I never put my hand up in class because my personality was very introverted. I was very quiet. I was very scared of people. I was very scared of judgment. So quite the contrary. Hence one of the reasons I even chose optometry as a career of choice in year 12, because I was just like, I have to only see one person for 1 hour and then see 6 people in 6 hours and then I'm done for the day. Great. low human interaction. I'm not good with people. I can't talk to save my life. Let me do that. And so, yeah, my upbringing was very, very different. I was a very shy kid, hated talking, and now it's sort of flipped on its head in the sense of opportunities. But like I said, I would owe personal branding quite a lot. That helped me flip that because the moment I started putting myself out there, opportunities started coming and I just started saying yes to small things. And then I realized, yes, I was a very quiet kid at school, but that doesn't mean I'm completely, useless at this other side. Yes, this is my comfort zone, but there's a lot of great stuff that comes from discomfort. And so, yeah, it was very different from what I was growing up, but in many ways, it's kind of worked out in the end.
So how did you find yourself in this particular path that has no relation to, what you actually went in the university to study, right?
Yeah, my mum asks me this question every single day, if I'm being honest. How it came about, I would say, so when I was studying optometry, I just wanted stability. I come from a South Asian community where the main thing for success is stability. If you've got a respectful job, you're stable, you're successful. And that's what I followed for so many years. And the moment I jumped into optometry, I realized this isn't for me. As much as I loved the industry and the profession, I just felt like I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't feel as creative as I wanted to be. So I just started a side hustle on the side while I was at university just to have a bit of creativity, a bit of excitement. And in many ways, I just, again, kept posting and I realized, what am I most passionate about? What's the thing that drives me? What's the thing that excites me? And to answer your question directly, there's a lot of skills when I was growing up and even while I was at university that nobody ever taught me. Things like financial literacy, how to speak with people, public speaking, leadership, emotional intelligence. These are things that you hear about all the time of how important it is. But nobody ever sits you down and says, hey, here are 3 things you can do to become a better public speaker. Your assumed knowledge to be good at that, but nobody ever teaches you that. And I was just like, that's a mega problem. I faced that. I was on the receiving end of that. Why don't we do something about it and teach little kids how to basically have those skills? And so my first ever business I started second year uni was literally teaching little kids public speaking education. I was a quiet kid growing up, so I was like, what if I teach little kids how to speak confidently? That could be like my starting point as a business. And then that sort of, you do one client really well, one partner really well, somebody else hears about it. And then in many ways, from schools to universities started reaching out and then corporate started reaching out, government, sports teams. And so, yeah, ever since then, we've had the chance to work with a bunch of young Australians. We just crossed working with 300,000 young Australians and now working with young Americans. And so it very much came from understanding I had that problem and nobody ever came in. And I don't blame anyone. So when you're at school, you need to focus on maths, science, all those subjects. When you're at uni, you've got to focus on your assessments. It's really hard to be able to bring someone in and teach you those skills. And so we work with different organizations to make sure every young Australian has those skills because I wish I had them fundamentally.
The fact that you were always on, as you said, your story you told me, you were on the coaching side of, public speaking. So let's say a university student is listening. Let's put myself in the perspective here. If I want to practice public speaking and I'm a university student, what are some ways that you did it from your experience if we can take some expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. So my best piece of advice would be, so when I first started breaking out of my shell and learning about public speaking, it was during COVID. So this was during lockdown period where to be a better public speaker, you need human beings. And every other human being other than my family were locked out everywhere else. So I was like, how do I improve this skill if I can't even speak to people? I only have myself and the mirror, basically. And that's all I did. So what I did for about, say, 6 months during lockdown, I would be in my gown, at home, like I've got nothing but my laptop every single day for 6 months. And I say this very openly. 6 months, I would text a friend. That's all we could have in terms of communication. I would text a friend and say, mate, give me a random topic. The most random topic. I do not care. Give me a random topic. And my friends always like to mess around. So they'd give me like the weirdest topic ever. I'd take that topic. I'd go into my webcam on my laptop. For 1 minute straight, 60 seconds, I'd record myself talking about that topic. I stuttered. I was horrendous. I had no idea what I was talking about. That topic was too hard. But after that 60 seconds, I would literally take a notepad out and write, okay, your eye contact was horrendous here. You started here. You started 14 times, actually. Yeah, just so many negatives. And then I'd put it onto the screen and I'd close my laptop and then go back to playing on the PlayStation or watching Netflix, whatever we did during lockdown. The next day, do the same thing over and over again. Ask another friend, give me a random topic. And every time I would look at the notepad and be like, okay, today, the fact that I was really bad at eye contact or body language or this last time, I'm going to make sure I'm mindful of that. So every single time it was that growth mindset of nobody can coach me. I have no human beings, but maybe I can coach myself. And so I kept being mindful of it, kept making mistakes. I was horrendous for, I'd say, a good solid 3-4 months, stuttering, not being able to make eye contact, just communicating really poorly. But eventually got to a stage where I'm like, I know what the trends are of how bad I'm speaking, and I'm becoming mindful of it. And over time, I was improving on it. So it was very much a self-paced learning experience. And then the moment lockdown lifted, started seeing human beings again, how I was speaking beforehand compared to how I was afterwards was a huge shift, because I was mindful of what I knew was bad in terms of body language, my tone, my excitement levels, my eye contact, and it translated in person. So I would always say, if you're busy, your friends are busy, your family's busy, everyone's busy these days. The only way to improve is if you've got the knack to improve for yourself. Put your webcam out, take your iPhone out, whatever it is, go on Snapchat, go on Instagram, whatever you want to do. Go make a random TikTok account that nobody sees, whatever works for you. But the idea is make sure that you watch it, listen to it, take notes, and repeat. And then you'll get to a stage where you're just like, I see patterns, I see trends. If I want to improve, let me be mindful of that. And then you'll see a huge level of improvement.
I would say this journey is particularly a testament to what we hear, practice makes the man perfect, right? From starting from speaking to the webcam to now on big stages. And you also told me how you connected with different clients. Do you think you would relate this to the importance of networking early as well? Because when I hear the word networking, there's suddenly so many question marks in my head. What does it mean? How can I do it? So how did you approach this idea of networking while you were in university? And what does it actually mean to you?
Yeah, I think networking just has bad PR, honestly. This word has been thrown around for so many years, and anytime somebody mentions it, it's always very much like that suit and tie vibe of like, I need a briefcase, I need to enter the room, it's a high pressure situation. I very much realized that networking is very much about building relationships rather than asking people for something. So when I was in university, anytime we had a networking event, it was always go ask that person for a job, speak to them, you'll get a job. It was very transactional. And that puts a lot of pressure because you're attached to the outcome. You're like, oh, I might get a job or an internship. That's a lot of pressure for a young kid trying to learn those skills. What I realized about networking is instead of seeing it as a transactional thing, which is great, it could be a byproduct, you might actually get a job afterwards, but see it as more of as a relational thing. Can I actually build a relationship with this person? Can I actually ask really cool questions where they're just like, mate, we spoke for about 5 minutes. That was a good conversation. We should connect on LinkedIn. We should connect on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is. I think that's the thing that we miss the most, because networking is the idea of trying to get something out of it. But when you attach an outcome to it, it becomes scary. You don't want to go there anymore. You're just like, it's very fake. It's very impersonal. But change that mentality and be like, hey, I'm just here to have a conversation. I'm trying to build a relationship. If I can add value to you and you can add value to me, we'll get somewhere. We'll have an outcome. But it doesn't need to always be an outcome from every single conversation. So if we can sort of see networking as more of like a relationship building thing, in the long term, it pays dividends. Because if I look at my career now, a lot of these awesome companies you mentioned that we get to work with literally came from 3, 4, 5 years of them seeing me on LinkedIn, meeting each other at events, and then on a random Wednesday morning, I would get an email saying, hey, I've loved following your work. We have this opportunity. Here's a contract. Can you make it work? And I'm like, absolutely. Of course. This is like a dream company. But it came from 3, 4 years of showing up, meeting each other, being on good terms instead of 3 years ago being like, hey, I want your money. I've got a business. Like, it doesn't work like that. So playing the long game, building relationships, it does pay in the long run. It's just you've got to be patient and not just ask people for something. If you can add value in a way, that should be your focus.
You've literally changed my entire perspective on this particular word now, because I've never seen anybody talk about networking in a very non-transactional way, as you explained. Now, like the fact that if we talk mostly about university students, again, essentially it involves connecting with people, right? You have possible employers, possible people from different companies. You go and talk to them. But the question is, what about people who are introverts? A couple friends of mine, great job, what they're doing in their careers right now. But they're like, we're very apprehensive when we go to people, but we don't want to talk because we're like, I don't know how to approach this conversation. I'm not very comfortable talking. Did you come across any instances like this, particularly about introverts?
I will give you the biggest secret. I think I'm probably the biggest introvert you will meet ever. And nobody believes that when I tell them. They see me on stages or doing workshops or on TV and they're like, oh, you're such a natural, you love this stuff. I don't. You ask my family who have grown up with my friends from high school, they're always just like, this isn't you, right? And the reality is, I used to always think being an introvert is a disadvantage. It's being negative, it's being quiet. That's false. This whole narrative is wrong. The reality is you all have a personality. Some people love time alone. Some people love and are energized with people, right? For me, being an introvert growing up, I think I've definitely changed as a person, but naturally I'm definitely an introvert. It's almost like I have to have an extension of me that almost like an alter ego. So for example, when I'm on stage, it's not Jahin. When I'm on stage doing a workshop or a presentation or a keynote, it's not Jahin. Jahin would love to be at home, watch Netflix, play some PlayStation, hang out with my mates in a comfortable environment. When I'm on stage, it's my role as CEO of ASE. So I've got to have a different personality for that. It's not me at home watching Netflix because no CEO is watching Netflix all day, every day. It's an extension of me. It's an alter ego of me to be like, I'm expected to do something. People are relying on me. I've got to make impact on this stage. So it's like an extension of me. I'm still the introvert. I haven't changed. I'm still the same personality. But it's like for this, say, 90 minutes I'm on stage, I'm Jahin Tanvir, CEO of ASE.
Right. So what do you think beyond actual verbal communications? What are some elements that, a person carries with themselves when you talk about a broader term personality? Let's say I'm going to a potential employer and I'm okay with talking. What are the other things from the employer's perspective they might as well be looking at that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, I would say the three things that come to mind, and this is a conversation we've been having with so many companies in government recently, especially with like AI now and employability. The three things that come to mind, number one is body language. We talk about verbal communication a lot, but non-verbal communication goes missing always in the conversation. And that's usually like a make or break for a lot of people. If I come into a room and I'm slouched over and I'm just like this and I'm sitting, nobody wants to talk to me. It's not a body language that people are energized by. So making sure you've got, you're mindful of your body language and how you are and how you're coming across, that makes a huge difference. Number two, I'd say two very underrated skills. I think charisma is very important. Being somebody who energizes people. And it's not hard to be charismatic. People think, oh, they're born with charisma. They walk into the room, everyone looks at them. Nobody's born with that. It's just the idea of, are you high energetic? Do you have a high energy? Are you highly energetic? Do you walk into the room and you're just like, I want to be here? It's not I have to be here, I get to be here. Do you give off that vibe? And that puts morale up. People want to employ these people. People want to be co-workers with these people. People want to be, around these people. So I think charisma is very important. How do you build charisma? Again, just energy. Instead of walking through and being like, hi everyone, good to meet you. Yeah, it's a Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Good to see you. I'm excited. That small boost of energy makes you go from a normal, boring person to highly energetic. I want to be around this person. Let me promote this person to be a leader and trickle that culture down to other people. And the third thing I would say, parallel to charisma, is just being likable as a person, right? It's one of those things that a lot of research has been done on. Well, what's the thing that makes an employee really good, gets them promoted? Oftentimes we don't talk about it, but the word that keeps coming up is, are you a likable person? Do you actually care about other people? Do you go out of your way? Are you proactive? It's not about just communication skills. It's not just about how much aura you have or leadership skills or any of these things that we see on social media. It's literally, if I'm around you, do I feel like I'm supported? Do I feel seen? Do I feel heard? How do you do that? Just sit down with someone, have a conversation, be mindful, be present, be curious about each other. That's it. That's how you be likable.
I think what you've said is just gold mine worth of advice. Now that we are on do's and don'ts, again, from the employer's perspective, if you approach this question, now it's very easy to overdo, in a situation like this. People who might as well use the label here, social butterflies, right? There always needs to be a fine line between what you should be saying and what you should not be saying. So what do you think are certain elements that I should not be approaching when, when it's about putting myself out there and in front of a potential employer? How do you approach this situation then?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting you ask that question, because I think as the years go by, the blurred line between what's personal and what's professional is becoming even more blurry. I know 5 years ago, LinkedIn, for example, was just professional stuff, promotions, events you go to, work stuff. And now if you open up LinkedIn, it's people at the gym, mirror selfies, and people grabbing a coffee, and it's just like, it's become very different. So it's definitely a bit more of a blur. There's no like real, yes, do this, yes, do that wrong. It's very much along your what your goals and what your brand is. So if your brand is more lifestyle marketing, post more personal stuff. Post more about the coffee catch-ups you had, or you just did high rocks, or you went to the gym. Like, post about it. That definitely gets a lot of engagement. But if you're a director at XYZ and you've got to uphold this role, and investors are on on you to make sure that you've got this sort of brand image, then be appropriate with that and make sure you shape those goals. So I would say very much there's no right or wrong answer. What I would say is, as much as we love talking about personality and all that stuff, don't be inappropriate. Make sure you're aware of what you post. I've definitely seen a lot of people, very great at interviews and great at all these things, but then are a bit too much of what they show, and it's very inappropriate. And it's just like, there's certain things that you should avoid, because when you become an employee of a company, you become a brand ambassador, you become an advocate for that company, and you want to be respectful. So don't do anything that's disrespectful, that clearly can violate stuff. So as long as you can sort of not do that, especially when you're young, you go to parties and stuff, avoid those things. But on the other side, it's quite a blurred line. So you can post as much as you want, whatever you feel like aligns with your brand. Is it high energy brand? Is it a cool brand? Is it a marketing brand? Is it extremely professional corporate suit brand? You choose. That's the beauty of social media as well, like LinkedIn, Instagram, everything you use. You get to choose what you post. Nobody's got any rules or regulations. If it does well in terms of engagement, then clearly something's working. If it doesn't do well, it doesn't mean it's not working. It just means people that you're connected with right now may not be the people who want to see this. Find your tribe.
Can you remind me of any particular instance, somebody's networking style that personally stayed with you and that you can potentially use as an example? Let's say, oh, I remember this person, met that person there, and the way that person connected with me will always be with me.
Yeah, I have so many, but the one that I would say, or the one trend of people when they reach out that always sticks with me is, say I do a workshop or I meet somebody at an event or a program or keynote, whatever it is. Somebody reaches out afterwards and they're very contextual about it. So it's not like, hi, it was awesome to meet you yesterday at the event. We'd love to grab a coffee and chat more. Yes, that's a very wholesome and beautiful message, but I bet 150 people can write the same thing. But if somebody messages me and says, hey, it was lovely to meet you last night. I really loved how you mentioned the book, Atomic Habits, that you read when you were 18. I actually just downloaded it on Kindle. I'll definitely let you know how I found it. If you're free, would love to grab a coffee. You look at these two options, the one that made it so much more personalized and actually listened to what I said instead of me just existing there. Which one would I respond to? It's quite obvious. So I'd say anytime somebody's being creative and contextual, I think that's the beauty of cold outreach as well. In most cases, you send 100 messages, you'll probably get 10% response. That's normal. That's the nature of cold outreach and just sales in general. But if you can make it as contextual as possible, personalized as possible, just mention even the most weirdest, wackiest thing that somebody said and hold on to that, that makes a huge difference. Because again, if you're in many ways reaching out to someone who's busy, who has a cool title or a CEO, whatever it is, most likely they are busy with at least 100 people messaging them weekly. For them to actually take the time to respond back, to see it, and then make a time to grab a coffee, for example, is very low. So you've got to be creative. You've got to make sure you stand out. How do you stand out? Very easy, contextual. Even if it's like you haven't met this person, but you really want to meet the CEO of this company, do some research. Go on their social media. What's the most recent conference they spoke at? What's the most recent thing they've done? What's the most recent thing that they posted about? And mention that, right? You don't have to meet them in person. People think, oh, I've got to meet the person to grab a coffee. No, just cold outreach. Say what they've done recently. Talk about something that's valuable and add an opinion to it. I guarantee you 8 out of 10 times, if it's compelling enough, they'll respond back to you. The only 2 out of 10 times they'll reject is because they're fully busy. So that's what I would say. Be creative, be personal. Don't use any AI generate. Please, no AI generated typical template. It might have worked in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2026 and onwards. It doesn't work.
Makes sense. Did you actually end up seeing one of those people?
Oh, 100%. And we've ended up hiring a lot of these people. So a lot of, especially university students who we meet at events, they come to us and say, hey, we love this. We'd love to do it ourselves. Can we, obviously they don't say, can I get a job? But we'd love to grab a coffee, explore it. And then we'd meet them and we'd realize, oh, they're actually really good public speakers. They're great communicators. That's exactly what we need. And they ended up just delivering better programs than me, I would say. So it's definitely been a good pipeline. If you reach out and you have a compelling enough case for a collaboration or a value add, there is absolutely no reason as to why you won't get your goal.
So when you get these kind of messages, mostly on what kind of platforms do you usually get these kind of messages on?
I would say it's been a bit of a mix between LinkedIn mainly. I'd say 8 out of 10 times it's LinkedIn.
Thank you for obviously letting me know about LinkedIn, because see, I believe it's one of those applications that everybody has in their mobile phones. But as a student myself, sometimes I'm always confused. What is the absolute best way to approach posting on LinkedIn, right? Now, when it comes to building a personal brand from your own experience and expertise, tell me something. How can people actually use LinkedIn to put themselves out there while, building their personal brand there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I've been asked this question multiple times and my answers changed quite a lot over the years. But I'd say if we're looking at 2026 as the goal of how do I build this, the main thing I would say is the biggest problem, especially university students who are obviously studying and the main goal is to get obviously good in assessments and exams and all that stuff. They don't have much time. It's really hard to do a lot more than just studying. I know how difficult it is to cram at exams, and some of them are working as well. So how do you make it easy? The biggest problem that we have when it comes to posting is people think I've got to create content. They think I've got to create content, reels, all these. Yes, that's great if you're a social media person. If you're an influencer, great, that's your job, right? That's what you love being able to build. The problem is you don't have to create content, you've got to document content, right? That's the main difference. We think that we've got to, sit down, write a script. As a university student, I would say most university students, if I'm seeing from my own experience, goes to uni, has a job on the side, maybe a part of a society, usually if it's a department, the school that's relevant to their degree, might volunteer on the side as well. They've got a few things happening, and then also events and social life. That's 5 elements of their life that they can document content on and write about, right? We think I've got to create content, I've got to put my phone in front and I've got to do this, I've got to be on a stage. No, that's great for later on. But you going to uni, cramming for assessments and studying and the work ethic you show, document it. Take a photo of you in front of the School of Business if you're a business student and be like, hey, here's what I've been up to. I've just finished my assessments. This is what I learned. You've literally got so much great buildings and logos to take in front of. You've got content there. Part of societies, you're showing you're very proactive. You're not just one-dimensional, studying the same thing and just doing that every single day. You're doing other things on the side. You're putting yourself, you're making yourself busy. You're developing time management skills. Post about it. Any event you go to about your society, any event you create for your society, if you're a VP of marketing at a society, talk about it. Don't just put it on your headline and by chance somebody will open it and be like, oh, she's a VP of marketing. No, post about it. I'm excited to share that this year, parallel to me studying and being a great student, I'm also taking upon XYZ. That shows you're proactive, you know how to manage your time, you've got leadership qualities, right? Other things like volunteering. A lot of people volunteer for the, feeling good about it and giving back to society. Great. I think volunteering was one of the most best things you can do as a human being. But why don't you document it as well? You're not getting money from volunteering, you're not getting paid for it or any of that stuff, but you can at least leverage it and say, hey, on a Saturday, I got to volunteer with this awesome organization. I learned 1, 2, 3 things and share about it. That aids you as a person to be, again, proactive, leadership qualities, cares about causes. There's so many, go to a social event. It doesn't have to be a professional social event, but it's a social event nonetheless. Talk about it. On the weekend, I went to this event at this soccer game. I got to meet all these players. Really cool to see high performance on stage. And there's so many things you can talk about. You just have to document it and then write something that's aligned to your goal. So for me, when I was at university, I was studying optometry. So everything was very much healthcare. I kind of wanted to break out of that brand and be a bit more than just a healthcare professional. I wanted to be a healthcare professional who had some leadership qualities. So I'd always, anytime I'd volunteer or do a society event, I'd always talk about leadership stuff parallel to healthcare. So it wasn't just, I'm an optometry student, great. It would be, I'm an optometry student, but I also do these things and it's helped me better, say, manage patients or build empathy, which aligns back to my job. So I would very much say in terms of what to post, how to balance it, don't worry about creating content. If you've got time to create content, fantastic. Go ahead. But if you don't have time, which most university students are balancing so many things at once, document it. And you're already in those spaces. You're already volunteering. You already got society events. You're already going out. You're already doing that stuff. Just take the camera out, take a photo, and say post once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever works for your schedule. But just post at least 1 to 2 times a week, I would say.
Bit of a sad story time. I used to have a very well established LinkedIn back in my bachelor's degree. Moved countries. I started in the UK, moved back to India, lost some access to my emails and all. And now LinkedIn is unfortunately not responding to me and account is gone. For somebody, let's say, who is starting fresh, I have my set of experiences, the internships, the things I was up to back in my uni. But right now, you open my LinkedIn, can I say it would be blank?
So the first way would be definitely contact LinkedIn Australia to get your account back, because that sounds like something that shouldn't happen in the first place.
Yeah.
Again, a question I get asked quite often. I'd say the most common question I get asked on LinkedIn is, what do I post? I've got an account, what do I post? Especially now if I want to start being active. The main thing I would say in this context is, I'm going to say it in a negative way, but I'm going to tie it back into a positive way. Social media is not real, right? What I did today is not what I post on social media, right? Something I did a few weeks ago, I have a photo for, like you mentioned, I'll post about it. I still did that thing, but I just got busy and I couldn't post it. So as human beings, I'm sure I can go on everyone's camera rolls and there's like a whole list of events you've gone to, stuff you've done, cool stuff that the world should see. But a lot of us like, oh, this was done in April. I can't post it anymore because it's May now. Why? Nobody knows this was in April. Maybe your friends and family or the people at the event knew, but the large majority of the world doesn't know that was done in April. So post about it. You don't have to say last week I did this. Just say I had the chance to do this. So that's what I would say. Like if you're starting out, like I said, you've either got a Google Drive of photos or your camera roll is absolutely chaotic right now with so many photos. Start organizing that. Find really cool photos that you feel could be cool in a professional setting or in a personal setting and start posting. And don't say, last year I did this. Just say, reminiscing about this event that I did, or I had the chance to be a part of this, or honored to do, whatever it is, however way you want to word it, you've still done that. So why not leverage it? It makes no sense. And in many ways, nobody cares when you've done it, unless it was an event that only happens once every 5 years, like the Olympics. Maybe don't post about the Olympics from 2000, like that makes no sense. But if it was something that was like a few weeks ago, or a few years ago, and there's still value that you can add just as a visual aid, post about it.
Obviously, I'm going to be putting myself out there, but it will take me time to get to that perfect LinkedIn post. According to you, if any student wants to post on LinkedIn, what are some, like things that any LinkedIn post should have so as the post actually stands out?
First of all, I will challenge you and say there is no such thing as a perfect LinkedIn post. It does not exist. Perfect is negative bias in your brain being like, oh, I've got to there's no standard, right? There's no perfect, nobody cares, right? What's perfect to you is very different to me. It's very subjective. So never go towards a perfect post. Doesn't exist. Go towards a post that you feel fulfilled by. That you're like, oh, I did this cool event. I was part of this and I posted about it. I'm happy. That should be your enough emotion. No perfection. Because again, fundamentally, on social media, how many seconds do you actually spend on each post? Like you look at yourself on Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you're using, how many seconds are you actually spending on each reel, each post as you slide up? How many realistically? Via research, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So you could make the most perfect LinkedIn post, spent 3 years on writing. This person will not even understand those 3 years of hard work. They'll be like, oh, cool, comment, nice man. So it makes no sense. There's no perfect post. What I would say is if they're starting out, the first post I agree with you, should be an intro post, being like, hi LinkedIn, this is my first post, a little bit about myself. I'm studying here. I've got a passion for this. I'll be sharing content about this. Very easy intro post, but anybody who engages with that first post will be like, oh, I've just connected with this person. They're very interested in this. Or I'm also interested in this. So I probably should connect with this person. Or write a comment about, welcome to LinkedIn, looking forward to following your journey. Because I aligned with that. Some people might be like, oh, it's just some random person posting about their first post. Skip. Doesn't matter. But you've at least aligned yourself with people who want to connect with you. And that's all LinkedIn is all about. That's all social media is about. That's all personal branding is all about. Finding people you align with and you can build opportunities and connections with, or they just zoom past and you never speak with them ever again.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. Again, this podcast is like possibly changing my perspective on so many things. I've heard a bit of an office chatter that you managed to land a meeting with the CEO of Netflix just back of a cold email or a LinkedIn message. What's the story behind that?
Oh, so I was about 21 years old. Obviously, Netflix is a company that we all grew up on. We love watching. And I don't know, I've always just been like, I'd love to be able to collaborate with them in some capacity. And so being Gen Z and being very stubborn, I saw a post he made on Twitter back in the day. And it was something to do with every young person needs a mentor, something along those lines. And I'm very stubborn and very bold. And I was like, what if I message this guy? Would he ever respond? Probably not. But what if I just tried? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? So I ended up finding his email in his bio, his agent's email, and just sent him an email. Again, very contextualized, very personalized. No, Mark, I'm such a big fan of yours. Oh my God, Netflix, great. Doesn't do anything. But I was like, hey, Mark, lovely to meet you. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm the CEO of Australian School of Entrepreneurship. I was 21 years old. I've done this, XYZ. I was really inspired by this specific thing that you built. It really stood out to me. I saw it on literally social media. I took a screenshot. If you're ever around, I'd love to grab 15 minutes of your time on a virtual call because I know you were in San Diego at the time. Would love to chat more about collaboration, something like that. I forgot. It was like 21. Fully expected no response. But at least I knew I shot my shot. And I knew I stayed true to myself of being bold, being brave, and seeing if things come about. This man, co-founder of Netflix, responded back in 4 minutes, gave me his Gmail account, so his personal account, not his agent's account, and sent me his calendar link saying, hey, put a time in. I couldn't find any time other than 4:30, 5 a.m., I believe, Australian time. Doesn't matter. He's the co-founder of Netflix. And then met him, had a great chat, and hopefully we can do something together now that we've launched the American School of Entrepreneurship. So yeah, some cool things might be in the works, but that came from being a 21-year-old, just putting myself out there, put my LinkedIn linked, and I was like, hey, here's what I've done. I really resonate with you. You were also 21 once. Love to chat.
Oh my God. Were you not shivering while talking to that person?
Yeah, I was so nervous. I had to hype myself up before that meeting. It was very cold. I put like music on, and then it was a crazy experience.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. Right. Okay. Would love to enter into a rapid fire session with you, which is going to be all things LinkedIn. Now I'm going to ask you some questions, and your job is to tell me whether it's true or false and why. Ready?
Cool.
So you need to perfect your LinkedIn profile before you start posting. True or false?
False.
Only people with internships or real jobs should actually post.
False.
And LinkedIn is only for job hunting.
Yes, but it can also be used for people who already have a job. A lot of people on LinkedIn have a job, speaking gigs, speaking opportunities, different collaborations, sales. A lot of people get different brand deals. A lot of the times we worked with some of the coolest companies in the world. They all came from a LinkedIn DM or a LinkedIn post that they saw of us working with a similar person in the industry. And they were like, hey, can you do this with us? And so, yes, it is, I would say primarily can be used as a tool for job hunting. But I would also say actually 70-80% of the people on LinkedIn who are posting regularly are just posting their thoughts, opinions, advice, and just the cool stuff that they're doing.
As a final thought, if somebody's listening and wants to be more intentional about their personal brand, networking, and possibly what they post on LinkedIn, tell me something, what can they do this week to make a difference?
Yeah, what I would say is definitely grab a coffee, matcha, Diet Coke, whatever you like. Go to a nearby cafe. Don't be in a work environment or your office or home. Go to a new environment that calms you down. Go to next to the beach. Sit down, and I encourage you, go through your camera roll or your calendar and just pick out things that you feel, oh, this is really cool that I've done at university, at my workplace, that I can talk about and maybe write a few lines about. Another thing, when it comes to LinkedIn posts, you don't need more than 3 to 5 lines.
Thank you so much again. I think I'm going to be the first person who will be taking this advice because I think spot on timing for this as well. All right, this is honestly one of the favorite parts of the episode. We are jumping into the Ask Me Anything segment. So ahead of this episode, we asked you on our Instagram stories what you wanted to know about careers and all the things that you're possibly figuring out life now. And right now, I am in the studio with Jahin to unpack those questions without any gatekeeping and just pure and honest advice. So a student has asked us, I am proactive in posting on LinkedIn and up to so many things, but it never seems to be working out for me. What do you think would be the possible reason for the same?
So 2 things I would say is, number 1, patience. Like any social media, we always expect that viral overnight success. That may work for some people, but it's not the norm. So having a bit more patience. Speaking from personal experience, I think it took about 2 to 2.5 years until I started getting regular engagement. So this is 2 years of just posting consistently, at least 2 to 3 times a week. And also number 2, I would say, try to make sure that you look at the analytics as much as you can, because the analytics tell you, number 1, impressions. So how many people actually saw your post. Number 2, the engagement. So did they like it? Did they heart reacted? Did they just, laughing emoji, whatever it is. And also it shows you how long they actually spent on your post. So these 3 different metrics actually give you an identification of, yes, I'm posting a lot, but it's not working. Why? Then maybe go back and see, because I haven't been posting really engaging photos. It was just a photo of the table and chair at an event. Try to take a selfie instead. Try to take a group photo instead. LinkedIn loves personal faces, loves selfies. Selfies do really well on LinkedIn. It might look cringe for some people, but it does really, really well because it's personal. People love faces. So try to look at the analytics and maybe experiment a bit more.
A student has asked us, apart from university networking events, what are some other ways to network?
The 2 that come to mind, number 1, there's a lot of great virtual networking that you can do in the sense of just DMing people. You don't need to go to an event or find someone at an event. Most people are just traveling all the time, especially busy people, especially employers. Just DM them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'd love to grab a coffee. You make that as a networking event. It's not an established networking event. You can actually create a networking event. And I would guarantee you, as an employer myself, I am always looking at future talent pool, future employees. So if somebody reaches out and they're proactive and they're enthusiastic, and I know at the back of my head, we're actually planning to expand and I need more people, I'll be more inherently towards the idea of grabbing a coffee with you and identifying if you're a good fit than not. But also all these corporates, startup ecosystems that people want to work at, especially Gen Z, especially younger people, they love this space. Go to their events. Or KPMG, PwC, Microsoft, Apple, Red Bull, Specsavers, you name it. They all have their own industry nights, right? They could be partnered with the university or they might just do it independently. Follow them on social media, especially LinkedIn. They always post about it. Spots are usually limited. Go there. If you're into startups and entrepreneurship and stuff, there's so many events that are free or usually $5 or $10. So if you think it's worth it, go there.
Thank you very much. I think now that almost takes us to the end. To finish us up, I would love to ask you for a recommendation to leave with us today. Something that has possibly helped you in your career or mindset lately.
I would say the main thing that's helped me, especially now with so much AI and so many changes and so many people just worried about the future, I think understanding the idea of the growth mindset, and I think that's a concept that I learned quite early on when I was about 18, 19 years old, the idea that the only consistency in life and your career and as you build stuff is change. You can't control change. What worked for you 2-3 years ago will not work today. Same way, what works today won't work next year or the year after. So almost enjoying that process of things will always be changing. I just have to continue growing and adapting to the times and learning, being curious. I think curiosity is a really good life skill. Just asking questions, being curious as possible, especially as university students. You're at such a awesome time in your life that I wish I could go back to. A full-time job is great, but it's stressful. Sometimes I just want to go to a society event, sit down with pizza, meet new cool people, and just talk about life and the future and careers. And there's a lot to learn in that space. So I would say be curious, but also have that growth mindset that things will always be changing. Enjoy that. And the more you can enjoy that, the more fulfilled you will be in your career.
Thank you so much. Very grateful for taking time out for this podcast episode, Jahin. And that's a wrap on today's episode. And now it's time for you to start building your own personal brand. If you got something out of this, share it with a friend who may need it. And do not forget to refer to the show notes that will link you through to My Deakin Talent. And it is a goodbye for now, but not forever. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.